Welcome back, everyone, to the Deep Dive.
Hello.
We're here to do what we always do, take a whole load of research, articles, notes,
Mm.
basically the raw information,
Mm-hmm.
and boil it down into exactly what you need to know. We do the heavy lifting so you get the core insights fast.
And today, we've got something really practical. We've looked at 15 different habits, all backed by source material, that seem to genuinely boost your thinking, make you mentally sharper.
Yeah, this isn't about some vague idea of being a genius. This is about concrete actions.
Actionable steps.
Yeah.
Small things you can build into your day.
We're trying to show that getting smarter, cognitively speaking, is something anyone can work on. It's not about massive life changes.
No, it's more like building a mental workout routine.
Yeah.
Tiny adjustments done consistently.
Things you can literally start doing. Well, right after listening, really.
And what jumps out from all these sources is that intelligence isn't fixed. It's
Okay.
dynamic. It needs upkeep.
Like a system that needs maintenance.
Exactly. And these habits, they create the right neurological environment for that continuous learning and faster thinking.
That's the key, isn't it? Consistency. Doing these small things regularly beats trying some intense brain training blitz once a month.
Absolutely. Consistency over intensity.
Think of it as installing the basic software updates for a sharper mind. So, we've grouped these 15 habits into 3 chunks. Let's start with the first one. Core cognitive workouts. This is about how we take in information and how we process it.
The inputs and outputs of learning, essentially.
Okay, kicking off with input. Habit number 1 sounds almost laughably simple. Reading daily.
It does sound simple, but the sources are quite clear.
They really hone in on this just 10 or 15 minutes every day. That's enough to make a difference.
Apparently, yes. It's about the pattern recognition that kicks in. When you read consistently, it doesn't matter if it's a novel, history, a well-written article, your brain has to constantly track new words, complex sentences, maybe follow arguments or plot lines. It's exercise.
So it's not just about downloading facts. It's training the brain's ability to handle structure, like building up its internal logic.
Precisely. You're strengthening cognitive flexibility.
What if what you're reading feels, easy? Does that still count towards this benefit?
The sources suggest that, especially at the start, just doing it consistently is the main thing. The act of reading matters.
Okay.
But yeah, ideally, you'd challenge yourself a bit. Mix it up. Read some fiction that forces imagination, visualization. Then read some nonfiction that needs more analytical processing.
A balanced diet for the brain.
Sort of, yeah. But the core point is doing it daily feeds your curiosity. And curiosity, well, that's the engine for everything else. Keeps those critical thinking pathways open and ready.
Right. So if reading is the main input, then habit 2 is about the output. Writing for clarity and memory. Well, lots of people keep journals, maybe diaries. But the way it's framed here feels different, more deliberate.
It's called a mental workout for a reason. It forces you to organize your thoughts.
How so?
Well, think about it. Inside our heads, thoughts are often messy,
Right.
kind of jumbled, nonlinear.
Definitely. All over the place sometimes.
But the second you have to put those thoughts down on paper, make them into actual sentences that make sense.
Okay.
Your brain, specifically the prefrontal cortex, has to work really hard. It has to prioritize ideas, structure them, put them in order. It's heavy lifting.
That's a great way to put it. Like writing forces the brain to do its organizing job properly. Is there a specific way to use this for memory?
Yes, there's a really practical tip in the sources. Before you go to sleep, just jot down 3 new things you learned that day.
3 specific things.
Or even just summarize a key idea in your own words. What this does is force something called retrieval practice.
Retrieval practice.
Yeah, you're not just passively remembering, you're actively pulling that information out, reconstructing it.
Okay, I see.
And that process really helps lock it in. It strengthens the neural pathways, turns short-term stuff into long-term knowledge. Over time, it genuinely sharpens your memory and just your general awareness of what you're learning.
Okay, that makes sense. Input via reading, output and organization via writing. What drives it all? Habit 3, asking better questions.
This one is crucial. It seems obvious, but how many times do we just nod along?
Guilty as charged, especially in meetings maybe. You nod, then later realize you didn't quite get the connection.
Exactly. That passive acceptance. It's a total killer for cognitive growth. The habit itself is simple. When you hear something, don't just accept it. Pause, think, ask why.
Why is that the case? Or how does that actually work?
Yes. Or even, what's the assumption behind that statement? You're pushing beyond the surface level. The sources really hammer this home. Intelligence isn't about having all the answers stuffed in your head.
It's about the curiosity to find them.
It's about the quality of your questions. That curiosity keeps your brain active, open, and genuinely seeking understanding, not just information.
Which leads us neatly into habit 4. Staying curious about everything. How is this different from just asking specific questions?
Asking questions is like a focused beam, right? You point it at something specific you want to understand.
Right.
Staying curious is more like the ambient light. It's the default setting of your mind.
Like a general state of openness.
Exactly. It's about looking at the world, even everyday things, with that kind of childlike wonder. How does that gadget work? Or what if we tried doing this process completely differently?
So it's less about targeted analysis and more about just being receptive.
Yeah.
Always looking for the interesting angle.
Precisely. It keeps the brain's reward system ticking over, too. Discovering something new, figuring something out that gives you a little dopamine hit.
Which makes you want to do it again.
You got it. That's why the sources call curiosity intelligence in motion. Your brain's never idle. It's always scanning, connecting dots, looking for new possibilities.
Okay, so we've read, we've written, we've questioned, we've stayed curious. Now, habit 5 feels like the ultimate test of whether we've actually learned anything. Teaching what you learn.
This is such a powerful one. It sounds paradoxical, doesn't it? To learn best, teach it.
Yeah, how does that work?
Well, think about preparing to explain something to someone else. You can't just rely on vague understanding or memorized facts anymore.
No, you suddenly realize all the bits you don't really get.
Yeah.
The fuzzy parts become painfully obvious.
Exactly. Teaching forces you to build a complete, coherent mental model. You have to simplify it, structure it logically.
Find the core essence of the idea.
Right. And that process of organizing and simplifying, it forces your brain to properly encode the information, linking it to what you already know. Neuroscientists talk about encoding specificity.
Okay.
But the gist is, simplifying it for someone else solidifies it for you. It builds much stronger, more flexible understanding in your own mind.
So the practical step isn't just casually mentioning it to a friend. It's actually structuring the explanation.
Yeah. Try explaining it clearly to a colleague. Write a short summary for someone. Maybe post a simplified version online. That act of articulation, of making it clear for others, is what the sources say turns knowledge into wisdom. You move past just knowing it to truly understanding it.
All right, section 1 was about feeding the mind the input and outputs. Now we're shifting gears to building mental muscle. This is about the adaptive mindset.
Developing cognitive strength.
These next few habits are more about actively seeking out, well, discomfort almost, and then processing those experiences.
That's a good way to put it. This really taps into neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to change and adapt. But it needs a reason to adapt. It needs stimulus.
And that stimulus often feels like friction.
Often, yes. Which brings us to habit 6, learning a new skill.
Okay, but not just like getting better at Excel. Does it need to be something totally outside your comfort zone?
Ideally, yes. The more novel and complex, the better the workout. Think learning a musical instrument, trying to code, picking up a new language, even complex cooking or gardening.
Something that forces your brain onto unfamiliar paths.
Exactly. The point isn't necessarily to become a concert pianist or a master chef, although that's great if it happens.
Right.
The real goal is the process of struggling with the new information. That's the cognitive workout.
And what's happening in the brain when we're wrestling with, say, conjugating French verbs for the first time.
You're literally forcing the creation of new neural connections. Sticking to routines makes existing pathways super efficient, but it doesn't build new capacity.
Oh, okay.
Learning something genuinely new and difficult forces the brain to rewire itself. It makes the whole cognitive structure stronger, more adaptable, more agile. You're training it to handle difficulty and maintain focus.
Which flows perfectly into habit 7. Embrace challenges. This isn't just about skills, it's about facing hard things in general.
Yes. The sources suggest that people who continuously develop their intelligence don't shy away from difficulty. They see it differently.
Also,
Instead of seeing a tough problem at work or a complex subject they don't understand or maybe a scary opportunity as a threat.
they see it as a chance to level up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A chance to grow. And crucially, they understand that feeling of mental strain, of confusion, of things being difficult. That's not a signal to quit.
That's the signal that growth is happening.
Precisely. That discomfort is the evidence of growth in action. It's when your brain is working hardest, forging those new connections, building resilience.
But that feeling is so unpleasant.
Yeah.
Our instinct is to back away.
It is. The shift is purely in mindset. Reframe the friction. See it as constructive. Every time you push through a challenge, you don't just solve the problem, you strengthen your brain's ability to handle future challenges. The sources use a great metaphor. Difficulty is the gym where your mind gets stronger.
You got to lift the heavy mental weight.
You do.
Yeah.
You build cognitive muscle by working against resistance.
Okay, so we've pushed ourselves, learned something new, tackled a challenge. Maybe we succeeded, maybe we didn't. Habit 8 says, don't just rush on to the next thing. Stop. Take breaks and reflect.
This is so often overlooked. We're obsessed with doing. But getting smarter often requires pausing.
Why is pausing so important?
Because reflection is how you turn raw experience into actual learning. Without it, you're just collecting data points without ever connecting them or figuring out what they mean.
So what's going on in the brain during that reflection pause? Is it just daydreaming?
Not quite. It activates what's called the default mode network, or DMN.
Okay.
This network lights up when we're not focused on an external task. It's crucial for things like consolidating memories, making sense of social situations, planning for the future, and even creativity.
So by intentionally pausing, you're giving that network space to work.
Exactly. You allow your brain to integrate the new information, connect it with old experiences, learn from mistakes, and adjust your approach for next time.
It sounds vital, but in a world that feels like it never stops, how do you make time for reflection? What's the practical step?
Make it non-negotiable. Schedule it, even briefly. After a project, a tough meeting, even just at the end of the day, ask yourself some simple questions.
Like what?
Okay, what actually worked there? What totally bombed? Why? What assumption did I make that turned out wrong? What did I learn from that?
Actively processing the experience.
Yes, that's what turns everyday events, successes, and failures into lessons that stick. It massively accelerates your learning curve.
Okay, final habit in this mindset section. Habit 9. Stay humble and keep learning. This feels a bit paradoxical. If we're trying to get smarter, shouldn't we be building confidence in what we know?
But there's a huge difference between confidence and arrogance. Overconfidence is like intellectual poison.
How so?
The sources are really clear on this, and the truly intelligent people aren't the ones who think they know everything. They're the ones most aware of the vastness of what they don't know.
The old Socrates, I know that I know nothing idea.
Pretty much. It's the antidote to that Dunning-Kruger effect, where people with limited knowledge massively overestimate their competence.
Right. So humility isn't about putting yourself down. It's about intellectual honesty.
Exactly. It's a survival mechanism for learning. If you're humble, you're open. You listen, you absorb, you're willing to consider that maybe, just maybe, your current understanding isn't the full picture.
And if you think you know it all,
You shut the door. Learning stops dead. The sources emphasize that the moment you think, okay, I've learned enough, that's the moment growth stagnates. Lifelong learning is the goal, and humility is what keeps that door perpetually open.
Okay, we've covered the active thinking habits and the adaptive mindset. Now we get to the bedrock, the foundation.
The stuff that make all the other habits possible.
Exactly. Because none of that fancy cognitive work happens if the machine running it, the brain, isn't physically maintained.
We have to stop thinking of the brain as separate from the body. It's an organ, a very energy-hungry one. Its performance depends entirely on physical upkeep.
Which brings us straight to habit 10, probably the most sacrificed habit of modern life. Get enough sleep.
Oh, absolutely. The sources don't mince words here. Sleep is called brain fuel, essential maintenance for your intelligence.
It's not just about feeling less grumpy in the morning then.
Not at all. Sleep is when the serious cognitive housekeeping happens. During deep sleep, your brain consolidates memories, transferring them to long-term storage.
Okay, locking in what we learned.
But there's something even more fundamental happening. Sleep activates something called the glymphatic system.
The glymphatic system, okay. Sounds technical. Break that down.
Think of it like the brain's waste disposal crew. While you sleep, cerebrospinal fluid washes through your brain tissue much more effectively than when you're awake.
Like a cleaning cycle.
Exactly. It flushes out metabolic waste products that build up during the day, including things like beta-amyloid proteins.
Aren't those linked to Alzheimer's?
They are strongly linked to cognitive decline and Alzheimer's. So skipping sleep literally means you're waking up with a brain that hasn't taken out the trash.
Wow. Okay. That makes you foggy, forgetful.
Absolutely. It directly hinders focus, memory, creativity, pulling an all-nighter to be more productive. It's completely counterproductive from a brain health perspective. It's fundamentally anti-intelligence.
Right. Message received,
Hmm.
prioritize sleep. Okay, from rest to movement. Habit 11. Exercise regularly.
Mm-hmm.
The link between hitting the gym or even just a walk and being smarter feels almost too simple to be true.
But the evidence is incredibly strong. The sources are unanimous. Physical exercise makes you smarter. Period.
Now, what's the mechanism?
Several things. First, obvious one, movement increases blood flow to the brain. More oxygen, more nutrients. That's basic optimization.
Okay.
But the really exciting part is the chemical boost. Exercise triggers the release of BDNF,
EDNF.
brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Think of it as like miracle grow for your neuron.
Okay, fertilizer for the brain cells.
Exactly. BDNF promotes the growth of new neurons, neurogenesis, especially in the hippocampus, which is vital for memory. It also helps existing neurons survive and communicate better.
So that recommended 20-minute walk isn't just burning a few calories. It's directly stimulating brain growth and improving memory function.
Directly and measurably. Plus, exercise improves mood, reduces stress, both of which also clear the way for better thinking. A healthy, energized body is the non-negotiable platform for a sharp mind. A sluggish body usually means a sluggish mind.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, next up for fueling the system. Habit 12, eat brain-boosting foods.
Right. Goes hand in hand with exercise and sleep.
Beyond just eating healthy, what specifically does the brain need from our diet?
We need to focus on nutrients that directly support brain structure and function. Top of the list, omega-3 fatty acids.
Found in fish, nuts, seeds?
Yep. They are critical components of the membranes around our brain cells. They help signals transmit properly. Think of them as essential building blocks.
Okay, what else?
Antioxidants. The brain uses a ton of oxygen, which creates oxidative stress like mental rest.
Ah,
Antioxidants found in things like berries, leafy greens, dark chocolate even. They help fight that damage, protect the brain's infrastructure.
protects the wiring.
Exactly. And don't forget the simplest thing, hydration.
Just drinking enough water.
Seriously, even mild dehydration can mess with your focus, your mood, your short-term memory. Brain cells need water to conduct electrical signals properly. What you eat and drink directly impacts how sharp you feel and how efficiently your brain operates.
Okay, physical foundation's covered. Now let's look at the internal mental environment. Habit 13. Meditate daily.
Mm-hmm.
For a lot of people, meditation still sounds like just relaxing, maybe spiritual. How does it actually sharpen intelligence?
It's less about relaxation, though it's a nice side effect, and more about awareness, intentional awareness.
Training your attention.
Precisely. The cognitive benefit comes from strengthening your executive functions. That's the brain's CEO. Working memory, mental flexibility, self-control, attention regulation.
So meditating is like doing reps for your brain's control center.
That's a great analogy. And studies show it works. Consistent meditation, even just 5 or 10 minutes a day, can actually change the brain's structure.
Really?
It's been shown to decrease gray matter density in the amygdala, the brain's fear-stress center, and increase it in the prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for those higher-level executive functions.
Wow. So less reactive, more thoughtful?
Basically, yes. It acts like a mental reset button. You learn to observe your thoughts without getting swept away by them. This reduces mental clutter, helps you manage emotions, control knee-jerk reactions, and ultimately lets you think more clearly and make more intelligent decisions.
Okay, meditation builds focus. Habit 14 tackles the opposite. Limit screen time.
The modern kryptonite for deep thinking.
We all do it. That endless scrolling. What's the actual cognitive damage?
It's a double whammy. Attention drain and dopamine fatigue.
Dopamine fatigue.
Yeah. Constantly bombarding your brain with tiny, novel bits of low-value information, like endlessly refreshing a social media feed, trains your brain to expect instant gratification and constant stimulation.
So it gets harder to stick with anything complex.
Exactly. It shreds your capacity for deep focus. That sustained concentration you need for difficult problems, creative work, or even just reading a challenging book.
The sources suggest setting specific screen-free times.
Yes, it's a practical defense mechanism, like maybe the first hour after waking up or the hour before bed. Create intentional pockets of quiet.
Why is that quiet time so important?
Because that silence, that lack of constant input, is the space where creativity and smart thinking grow. If your brain is always consuming and never gets the chance to process, synthesize, connect ideas, or generate anything original, you need to trade some passive consumption for active mental creation.
Makes sense. Okay, we've reached the final habit, number 15. This one shifts from internal work to our external environment. Spend time with smart people.
Ah, the environmental factor. This isn't just feel-good advice. It's framed as a multiplier for intelligence.
Based on that old saying, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Pretty much. The sources talk about intellectual osmosis.
Osmosis. So their smartness just seeps in. How does that work practically?
It's about the environment they create. When you surround yourself with people who are curious, thoughtful, motivated, you're constantly exposed to higher quality information and conversation. You're implicitly challenged to think more deeply, to articulate your own ideas better, to defend your viewpoints.
So it raises your baseline.
Absolutely. Their energy, their standards, their way of thinking it genuinely rubs off. They introduce you to new perspectives, challenge your assumptions, and just generally keep you on your toes intellectually. It's like having a permanent, ambient cognitive workout partner. It pushes your boundaries. Hashtag outro.
Wow. Okay, that's 15 distinct habits. Quite a deep dive. What really stands out to me is how intelligence isn't just one thing.
No, it's clearly shown as this dynamic result of daily practices. It's a mix, isn't it? Active thinking, taking care of the physical machine.
And even curating your environment and your mindset.
Exactly. And the constant theme, as we said at the start, is consistency, not giant leaps.
Little and often. Reading for just 10 minutes, sleeping properly, choosing to tackle a slightly harder problem. These things add up.
They absolutely accumulate into real cognitive strength and resilience over time. You don't need a life overhaul tomorrow.
So the challenge for you, the listener, is pretty simple then. Don't try to do all 15 at once.
Please don't. That's a recipe for overwhelm.
Pick 2, or maybe 3, whichever ones feel most doable right now. Maybe it's that write down 3 things learned habit.
Or scheduling that 20-minute walk. Or making a conscious effort to ask why more often.
Start small. Let them take root. Let the progress be organic.
And maybe we can leave you with one final thought, tying a couple of these threads together. We talked about intellectual humility, knowing you don't know everything.
Habit 9. And we've talked about reflection, processing your experiences. Habit 8.
What if the deepest cognitive growth comes from combining those two?
How do you mean?
Reflecting not just on what happened or what you learned, but reflecting humbly on what old ideas, what cherished assumptions, what parts of your previous knowledge you actually had to let go of.
In order to understand something new or overcome that challenge.
Exactly. That willingness to discard outdated mental models, that requires real humility. And doing it consciously through reflection, that feels like the absolute core engine for real, lifelong intellectual progress.
Letting go to grow. A powerful thought to end on. Keep reflecting, stay humble, keep building.
Thanks for diving in with us.
We'll catch you on the next deep dive.